I emailed my professor from PCC. She taught psychology of the African American back in 2010. First class I took, actually. And today, I'm going to read this conversation. I hope you're doing well and won't hold it against you if you don't remember me from my name alone. But I hope you haven't forgotten this pretty face. I was in your Psychology of the African American class in 2010. I've been good. I transferred to UCR, got my bachelor's degree in Middle Eastern/Mediterranean history in 2017. Started working at an electric car manufacturer in 2018. Just a grunt, but I can't complain. I'm contacting you now because I'm curious to get your thoughts on current events. I remember you were talking about all these things I now find to be daily challenges in my personal and professional relationships, as well as frequent topics in the news. I never agreed with you on the concept of white privilege and still don't. That never interfered with you and me being able to have an intellectual conversation, though. Now that white privilege has become a mainstream narrative, I have coworkers who won't speak to me simply because I'm unwilling to say my life has been made easier by the color of my skin. I was wondering if you still support these ideas. I'd say it's undeniable that race relations have deteriorated over the past decade as this narrative has invaded society. If you feel otherwise, please explain logically. Sincerely, your former student, James Gilbert. Hi, James. Sorry for the late response. The semester has been very busy. I'm wrapping up final grades and such. 2010 was so long ago, my goodness. I hope you've been well. Congrats on the BA as well. I'm afraid that trying to explain white privilege is far too complex to try and email about. It seems as though you are saying you know what it is, but just don't agree or accept it as truth. That's what it sounds like, which would mean nothing I say will change your mind. But just to quote, now that white privilege has become a mainstream narrative, I have coworkers who won't speak to me simply because I'm willing. Yeah, continues. I most certainly support the idea that some people have not had to deal with certain situations due to their status, aka have privilege, in a certain area. How silly would I sound in a room filled with physically disabled people saying that I have not had it easier when it comes to driving, entering buildings, flying, using a computer, and more? Those who use wheelchairs or are blind would probably stop talking to me too. Does that mean my life wasn't hard? No, but there are things that they will have to think about and deal with that I never have to be aware of. I do not think race relations have deteriorated over the past decade. Race relations have not changed that much at all, but now those who have not had to pay attention to how bad race relations in this country are being asked to acknowledge that they have been able to ignore how bad it might be for someone else. Video cameras and social media help give visuals to race relations, but those things have been going on when we didn't have cameras to record it. The idea that I was teaching on these same topics in 2010 when you took my class is just a small example. The research on maltreatment based on skin color has been going on and is documented in research far longer than mainstream media began acknowledging it. So I'm not sure if this helps you. As I said, you did use the word unwilling in response to acknowledging ways your skin color allowed you to avoid certain obstacles. I'm not sure if a logical explanation can impact someone who is unwilling. I will say you must be curious to some degree to reach back into the archives and email me. However, I think if you are willing to understand, you will find a whole host of books, articles, and personal narratives that you can access to understand more about privilege tied to skin color and race. It is uncomfortable work to acknowledge our own privilege. For example, I continue to try and learn about my privilege as a straight person from student stories, research, and more. But when you do, it makes you a more empathetic person and a better problem solver, since you are seeing more than one angle of a problem. Have a great holiday. My response: At 15, I had 4 cops stop me while walking, all 4 guns drawn, screaming to get on the floor because I matched the description of a suspect in the area. That was one instance of maybe half a dozen. If I had been black, I would have been accepted to a better university and had access to far more grants. My opinions are frequently disregarded because of my skin. When I started trying to teach, I was told it was good my focus was on Middle Eastern and African history because they weren't interested in hiring people who focused on American or European history. I've had serious girlfriends and relationships after parents found out I was white. I'm not freaking out about it, but it's happened. So no, being white has not improved my life in any way, which is probably why everyone that's even a quarter Mexican, black, or Asian identifies as that ethnicity today. Compare the 2 recent school shootings. The 18-year-old black kid got to go home. He was charged with assault with a deadly weapon. His parents have been all over TV saying it's because he was bullied, and even asking the police to charge one of the kids he shot. Then you have the 15-year-old white kid charged as an adult with terrorism, parents arrested for involuntary manslaughter. I don't have a problem with them being charged, by the way, but they'd never have done that to a black family, and if they did, there'd be hundreds of lawyers offering to take the case pro bono. Where's their white privilege? You don't think the hate crimes against Asians being committed overwhelmingly by African Americans constitutes a deterioration of race relations? Or the black nationalists running over 80 plus people in the Christmas parade? Or the murder of that 14-year-old in Florida by a guy with a history of targeting vulnerable whites? The police refuse to acknowledge any of the crimes against white people as hate crimes at all, and the media ignores those stories, but believes and repeats Jesse Smollett's hateful lies. You didn't consider what I said, and I don't expect anything different this time around, but at least now you can't say you didn't know. For the past decade plus, the police have killed an average of 12 unarmed black men per year. The murder rate has doubled in almost every major city since they defunded the police, and the vast majority of victims have been young black men in gangs. So you, and the policies you support, have killed more of your own people in a year than the cops did in 10 plus. But no one's protesting in the streets. Do black lives only matter when a white person takes them? If you really don't think any of this constitutes a deterioration... hold on. If you really don't think any of this constitutes a deterioration, you're a black supremacist just as evil as any white supremacist, and I regret that I always treated you with the respect you didn't deserve. I think it's you that needs to do the uncomfortable work of acknowledging your own privilege. Hi, James, her response. Well, that escalated quickly. It seems some of my word choice was misunderstood, but more importantly, it does not seem like you are interested in my thoughts on these topics. I'm very sorry to hear you had such a scary run-in with the police. Have a great holiday. Your wording was fine. It's your ideology that's wrong. Intellectuals can question their beliefs. Zealots can only question how to make their beliefs palatable. I noticed you didn't deny being a black supremacist. I hope you were open-minded enough to read that full email. But I wouldn't expect an evangelical to read an essay on Zoroastrianism. Hi, James. Yes, I read every word of your email. I am choosing not to respond to any accusations or insults. I am always happy to discuss topics and ideas. I am not interested in being right or wrong, and it appears your goal is to show me I am wrong. You reached out to me to ask my thoughts, and as I stated, it doesn't appear you are interested in my thoughts, so I'll leave it at that. I appreciate your measured and mature response, as I'm clearly incapable of making those. I almost envy it, haha. I shouldn't be rude or accusatory. I apologize for that, but I'd like to point out that if I were to say I don't respond to accusations when someone accused me of being a white supremacist, we both know how that would be perceived. Again, not really pointing to any privilege. I was interested in if you had changed your thoughts as the world changed. I guess I was upset they hadn't. Take care, Professor. Wish you well. Maybe I'll check in a few years. Thanks for your apology. I do hope you have a lovely 2022. Yeah. The difficult work of acknowledging your own privilege line, that really irked me. How fucking condescending can you be?